Welcome back, class 12, to the online bio classes. Today we'll continue with the third chapter, human reproduction only. And in the previous class we had already completed spermatogenesis, the process of formation of sperm cells from the primary germ layers present in the testicular lobules is called spermatogenesis. Today we are going to start the second topic, that is oogenesis. Oogenesis, the word oo stands for, or the ova, that is the eggs. So genesis means formation. So formation of ova, ova is the female gamete, also known as egg cell, from primordial germ cells. Primordial germ cells are present in the lining of epithelial lining of the ovary. So from the ovary only these eggs or the ova are produced, and that process of formation of eggs is called oogenesis. You can see the diagram of steps in oogenesis, in which the primary germ cell, which is marked as 2x, means it is diploid. It undergo division to form many oogonia. Oogonia means they are also diploid, having two sets of chromosomes. They further multiply to increase their number. That's why the first step is called multiplication phase, in which the primary germ cells, they multiply and increase in number with the same number of chromosomes. Okay. Now some of them mature enough and they act as primary oocyte. You can see in the diagram this one. Primary oocyte is also diploid, having same set of chromosomes, that is diploid set of chromosomes like the primary germ cell. That is, they are also diploid. Now it undergo division to form the secondary oocyte. This one is secondary oocyte, and the first polar body. But what you can see now, both of them are haploid, having half sets of chromosomes. And the first polar body, this is unequal type of division. Although the number of chromosomes are equally transferred in both of them are XX, means haploid, but this one is quite bigger in size as compared to the polar body. Polar body has almost no cytoplasm in it. And the secondary oocyte further undergo division to form the ovum or the egg cell and the second polar body. Even the first polar body can also undergo division to form two further polar bodies. Okay, so I'll say one by one. What is multiplication phase? Multiplication phase is the one in which the germinal cells, epithelial cells of the ovary multiply. By which division? This type of division, in which the number of chromosomes remain the same in both the parent cell and the daughter cell, is called mitotic division. So by mitotic division, the primary germ cells, that is the epithelial cells lining the ovary wall or inside the layer of the ovary, they undergo mitotic division and they produce a cluster of cells which are known as follicles. A single cell from a follicle, it will differentiate and form the structure called oogonium. You know that all the oogonia which are to be used throughout the life of a woman, they are produced at a very early stage before birth, and they do not multiply thereafter. Then growth phase, the oogonium, the second phase, the oogonium, these are called oogonium, they grow in size and attain maturity, and now they are known as primary oocyte. Okay, it contains diploid number of chromosomes, same like the oogonium. Then comes maturation phase, in which the primary oocyte undergo the first meiotic division. This division is called first meiotic division. Meiotic division, you know, mitosis, meiosis, in which the number of chromosomes is reduced to half. Okay, so here you can see 2x is there, now there is x is there, means first meiotic division takes place here, second meiotic division will take place here. Okay, second meiotic or maturation division. Okay, it is also called first maturation division, second maturation division. So primary oocyte undergoes the first meiotic division and produces a larger secondary oocyte and a small polar body. Okay, during this phase, the Graafian follicle comes to the ovarian surface, and immediately after meiosis 1, it ruptures to produce the secondary oocyte. And the secondary oocyte, it is the one which is carried down the fallopian tube by the ciliary movement of the cells. And the second meiotic division, that is maturation division, remains suspended till the time of union of male and female gamete. Means the first meiotic division only occurs. second meiotic division is suspended till there is union of male and female gametes. The secondary oocyte divides to form a mature ovum and a secondary polar body, that is the second polar body. Okay, which do not take part in reproduction, and eventually these polar bodies, they have no function, so they will degenerate. Now, what is the differences between spermatogenesis and oogenesis? Oogenesis is fundamentally similar to that of spermatogenesis, but the difference is the two polar bodies which are formed, it was not produced during the spermatogenesis. Important differences are: number one primary spermatocyte gives rise to the 4 spermatozoa, but here only one primary oocyte gives rise to only 2 secondary spermatocytes. Okay, then the polar bodies are not formed in case of spermatogenesis, but in oogenesis the polar bodies are also produced, which further degenerate and it has no functions to do. Okay, now according to the syllabus, the next topic which we have to do is, although in the book the word puberty is there, you know about it. What is puberty? Puberty is a period of rapid growth and development which is accompanied by secretion of gonadal hormones and development of sexual maturity, including the production of gametes and the development of secondary sexual characteristics. In boys and girls, the puberty age is different. In girls, it normally starts at the age of 10, and the first sign is the development of breast. And ovulation and menarche appears. Menarche means the process of onset of menstruation is called menarche. It starts at the age of 12 years. In boys, puberty commences or starts at the age of 11, and the enlargement of testes is the first sign. Apart from this, there are many changes which are seen in boys and girls during puberty, like enlargement of testes, then spermatogenesis occurs. In case of girls, ovarian cycle and ovulation starts. Similarly, there are psychic behaviors like attraction for girls in boys, and in girls, attraction for boys. Hormonal changes like rise in the level of FSH. FSH stands for follicle stimulating hormone. Testosterone secretion, whereas in girls, rise in FSH, LH, estrogen and progesterone also occurs. Now comes hormonal control of puberty. Means the puberty stage is controlled by the hormones which is secreted by hypothalamus anterior pituitary gonadal axis. In childhood, this is linked between hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary is underdeveloped. Later on, the levels of LH, FSH, PRM, they are low in childhood, but gradually it increases when they rise to the adult level. Okay? So adrenal androgens start to rise by 8 years of age and continue to rise until 13 to 15 years in both girls and boys. Okay, now next we have to start the topic which is there in the syllabus is the menstrual cycle. How to define that definition of menstrual cycle? The definition you need to learn different phases and the hormone action, menarche and menopause, physiochemical events. So this one only. So first, what is the definition? The definition is the rhythmic series of changes which occurs in the sex organs throughout the reproductive life of female primate, like in monkeys, apes and human beings, from puberty to menopause is called menstrual cycle. It is also known as menses or menstrual period. It lasts for 3 to 5 days, and during ovulation, ovulation is the release of egg from the ovary which occurs between 13th and 17th day of the cycle. Generally it occurs on the 14th day of the cycle. This process of release of egg from the follicles is known as ovulation. So ovum, when they are released, if they meet with the sperm cells, that is the male gamete, fertilization occurs, and if they fail to meet with the sperm cells or the male gamete, then the fertilization will not be there, and eventually the unfertilized egg will be discharged from the body along with the endometerial lining of the uterus in the form of menstrual flow. Okay? So menstruation may be defined as the cyclic discharge of blood which carry the broken tissue through the vagina. In general, it contains all the broken tissues of endometrium, mucus, leukocytes and unfertilized ovum. It is taken to begin with the onset of menstrual bleeding and ends before the next menstruation. Now, what are the changes in the menstrual cycle? So, what is the definition of menstrual cycle? It is a cyclic series of changes which occurs in the female reproductive system, in which there is monthly discharge of blood. So, during menstrual cycle, some changes occurs in the uterus and the vagina, breast and other organs also. Side by side, there is maturation of follicles in the ovary, that is ovarian cycle continues. So these changes during a cycle can be divided into 3 phases. In your book also the diagrams are there. What are they? Number 1, proliferative phase. First one is called proliferative phase. Okay. The second one is called secretory phase or luteal phase. And the third one is known as bleeding phase. Okay, first one is ovulatory phase, also known as proliferative phase. The other name is ovulatory phase. Alright, so what are the first proliferative phase? After menstruation, the proliferation or the proliferative phase starts with the growth and proliferation of tissues, means breaking of tissues on the walls of uterus, fallopian tubes and vagina. What are the changes in the uterus? At the onset of proliferative phase, the endometrium, the mucous membrane of the uterus, is very thin, 0.5 to 1 millimeter thick, and all superficial layers will cast out during menstrual bleeding. As the phase progresses, endometrium glands will grow in length, epithelial cells will proliferate, growth of endometrial stroma occurs, and the blood vessels will grow. Now you can see that changes in the ovary. The ovarian cycle progresses side by side during proliferative phase. During this phase, a follicle ripens into Graafian follicle. Like earlier, it is the primordial follicles, then it gives rise to primary follicle, then secondary follicle, then the tertiary follicle. Okay, follicles will keep on growing in size, and finally the Graafian follicle will rupture or break down to release the egg on the 14th day of the cycle, which is known as ovulation. Now, since the proliferative phase is associated with the growing follicle in the ovary, this phase is also called follicular phase. Which one? Secretory phase, ovulatory phase or follicular phase? This one only. So, because this phase is associated with the growing follicles in the ovary, this proliferative phase is also known as follicular phase and also known as ovulatory phase. Why ovulatory phase? Because during this phase only, there is rupture of Graafian follicle to release the egg. So proliferative phase extends for 10 to 12 days. The number of days, 10 to 12 days. Means starting from the first day of the cycle up to 10 to 12 days, proliferative phase is there, during which the eggs are released from the ovary. Then comes secretory phase. It is followed by secretory phase, which lasts for the next 12 to 14 days again. 12 to 14 days. So here 12 to 14, 10 to 12 and 12 to 14 means if you add both of them, 12 plus 14, it will be 26 days. The remaining 2 or 4 days will be there. That will be counted in the bleeding stage or bleeding phase. Bleeding phase is the last one, which lasts superficial, and first we will complete this one, secretory phase or luteal phase. Okay. During this phase, the follicle, ruptured follicle, changes into corpus luteum, the Graafian follicle, which breaks to release the egg it changes into corpus luteum, which acts as an endocrine gland to release the hormones which are required, like secretion of progesterone hormone, which is required for the maintenance of pregnancy. Okay, and it produces changes in the secondary sex organs, and it helps to prepare for anticipated pregnancy. Means if the egg fertilizes or mixes with the sperm cell, it will cause fertilization, and for that only it prepares in advance. So since these changes are due to progesterone, this secretory phase or luteal phase is also known as progesteronal phase or luteal phase. Why it is called luteal phase? Because it comes from the word corpus luteum. And what is corpus luteum? It is the structure which is formed after the breakdown of Graafian follicle, which acts as an endocrine gland. Now, what are the changes in the uterus during this phase? During this phase, the wall of the uterus will become quite thick. It will increase in size. Endometrium thickness will increase, and the glands become more filled with secretions due to uterine movements, and the arteries becomes coiled, and glycogen content increases, means more glycogen is pumped into the endometrium. Towards the end of this phase, the endometrium is thick, soft, and it is richly supplied with blood. These changes are preparations for a suitable environment for the fertilized ovum. However, in absence of pregnancy, these measures are abortive and they will be removed along with the broken tissues of the blood, along with the discharge of endometrial lining. Now, what is the changes in the ovary? If ovum is not fertilized, the corpus luteum undergo degeneration in the ovary towards the end of this phase, and the level of progesterone, it will decline. Then the last phase, which is known as bleeding phase, if the pregnancy fails to occur, then the bleeding phase starts, and in this phase the endometrium undergo spasm. Spasm means contraction with pain. As a result, portions of endometrium, that is 2/3 portion, are sloughed off. Sloughed off means it is removed from the body, and this is accompanied by menstrual bleeding. At the end, the endometrium remains only 0.5 to 1 millimeter thick. The thickness is reduced only to this much, 0.5 to 1 millimeter, and the bleeding phase extends for 3 to 5 days. The number of days it remains active, 3 to 5 days. It is followed by the next menstrual cycle. Okay. Now next we have to study hormonal control of menstrual cycle. Okay, so next topic you can see on the board, hormonal control of menstrual cycle. There are 5 hormones which regulate the process of menstrual cycle in female, and the names are, you should learn the full form also, gonadotropin releasing hormone, GnRH, gonadotropin releasing hormone. Spelling also gonadotropin releasing hormone. Okay. The second one is FSH. FSH stands for follicle stimulating hormone. Follicle stimulating hormone. Alright. Third one is LH, which stands for luteinizing hormone. What is the spelling of luteinizing hormone? Luteinizing, luteinizing hormone. And the fourth one is estrogen, progesterone, fifth one. Okay. Now, what are the functions of each of these hormones? First one, that is gonadotropin releasing hormone. It is synthesized, means produced in the hypothalamus part of the brain, and it controls the release of both the hormones FSH and LH. Now, the function of FSH, that is follicle stimulating hormone, it stimulates the ovarian follicles and helps them to mature so that they can become bigger, and the eggs will mature, and the mature follicle synthesizes and releases the estrogens. Now LH, it stimulates or helps in the conversion of the ruptured follicles, the follicles which are broken, like Graafian follicle is ruptured, to release corpus luteum. And corpus luteum is the structure which acts as an endocrine gland, as I had told earlier. It synthesizes and releases both estrogen and progesterone. And estrogen and progesterone, these are the two female sex hormones which helps to control secondary sexual characteristics, as well as they help in the development of secondary sexual characteristics of females. Okay. Now next you have to do, after hormonal control, one word is there, estrous cycle. Estrous cycle, it is not there in your syllabus, I can see. Yeah, syllabus estrous cycle is not mentioned. Okay. So only the definition you can learn. In majority of non-primates, the female will receive the male only at certain periods of the time of the year. They cannot mate throughout the year. This period is called the breeding season for that animal. The sexual activities of the female occurs cyclically, that is outside these cycles. The females do not have any activity. Such a cycle is called estrous cycle. Estrous means heat period or heat cycle. Okay. Now next is differences between estrus. What is menarche and menopause? It is there in your syllabus, so you should learn the definition. Menarche is the first or the onset of menstruation in females is called menarche, means the starting of menstrual cycle. It occurs at the age at which menarche occurs in the female is normally 10 to 13 years. Here in the book 11 to 13 years is mentioned, but nowadays 10 to 13 is correct to say. Then comes menopause. The cyclic, menopause means stop. So the stage or the age during which the process of menstruation stops in the older females, particularly at the age of 45, it stops. So normally between 45 and a little above 50 years, most of the females will stop the process of this cyclic discharge of blood from their body, that is menstrual cycle. That is known as menopause. Now next we have to study, according to the syllabus, is embryonic development. Okay, structure of sperm ovum is completed. Yeah, next we have to do is embryonic development. So I will just tell the definition. What is embryonic development? A study of development of organism from fertilization, like once fertilization has occurred, till the formation of young one is known as embryogeny. And for the formation of embryo, different stages are required, like how the zygote, which is produced by the fusion of male and female gametes, undergo a series of divisions to form different stages of embryo, like starting from zygote, the first stage in which the zygote cell will divide to produce 2 cell stage, then 4 cell, then 8 cell, 16 cell, 32 cell stage. Eventually the names are also there, like blastula, morula, gastrula. Okay, so different names are given. Now what is fertilization? The process of fusion of male and female gametes to form a zygote is called fertilization. Fertilization can be of two types, like if it occurs inside the body of the female, as it happens in the mammals, it is called internal fertilization. But in some animals, like aquatic animals, they discharge the male and female gametes outside in the water, and in the water only the fusion of male and female gametes will occur. Such type of fertilization which occurs outside the body of female is called external fertilization. Okay. Then we have to study about fertilization in mammals as an example, then the different stages of fertilization and the development of embryo. Okay. Okay, listen. Next is fertilization in mammals. Human as an example is given. So I will try to highlight some of the words. Like first one is, in the human female, where does fertilization occurs? If it is asked, the correct answer is it occurs in the fallopian tube or the oviduct. Which part of the oviduct? If particularly asked, ampullary isthmus region. Okay, that is the correct place. The whole process of fertilization is divided into 5 stages. First one is maturation and capacitation of spermatozoa. You need to learn the definition of capacitation. What is maturation? The fully formed spermatozoa, that is sperm cells, As they pass through the male genital passage, they undergo the process of maturation. They acquire motility, means they are able to swim only after they reach epididymis. Epididymis is the structure or the organ where the sperm cells are stored. That is the main function. Storage of sperm cell is the function of epididymis. It is a highly coiled tube. The secretion of epididymis, seminal vesicle is the name of the gland, and prostate gland, they have an effect on spermatozoa, but they become fully motile, that is, they can start swimming only after ejaculation. Ejaculation means once they are discharged from the body, then only they acquire the full motility. A spermatozoa acquires the ability to fertilize the ovum only after they have been in the female genital tract for some time. Means immediately it cannot cause fertilization, the sperm cells. In order to cause fertilization, the sperm cell needs to remain for some time in the female tract. This final step in the maturation is called capacitation. So what is capacitation? Capacitation is the final step of maturation of a sperm cell in which they have to remain for some time in the female tract in order to cause fertilization. Now what is the structure of ovum? The human ovum, that is the female egg, is called alecythal. A-L-E-C-I-T-H-A-L. Just listen to the word carefully. Alecythal means devoid of yolk. Means there is no yolk. The yellow part of the egg is not there and has bulky cytoplasm. Means large amount of cytoplasm, and a centrally located nucleus is there. You can see the diagram in your book, figure 16, structure of ovum, that you have to draw. When set from the ovary, means when the egg is released from the ovary during ovulation, it is not fully mature and it is called secondary oocyte. It measures 100 micrometer in diameter and it is surrounded by a transparent non-cellular layer which is called zona pellucida. So what is zona pellucida? A non-transparent layer. Zona pellucida is a non-cellular layer which is transparent that surrounds the female egg. And the follicles, radially elongated follicle cells are present around or outside this layer which is called corona radiata. So what is corona radiata? Corona radiata is radially elongated cells or radially elongated follicle cells which are present outside zona pellucida. Some cells of corona radiata, they stick to the outside of zona pellucida, and between the cell membrane, which is also called vitelline membrane, and zona pellucida, there is a pore or a gap is there which is called perivitelline space. The first polar body which is produced during the formation of oogenesis, it separates from ovum during first meiotic division. It lies in this space, and this region of the ovum which extrudes polar bodies and receives sperm, means this part of the egg receives sperm, is called animal pole. And the pole of the ovum which is opposite to animal pole, it is known as vegetal pole. Now next step is coitus. What is coitus? Coitus is simply the process in which the male and the female gametes will be, the passage of semen to the external world is urethra that is present inside the penis that transfers the spermatozoa from a male to the female. During coitus, coitus means in which the mating of male and female partners will occur, the parasympathetic nerves of the penis are stimulated. That causes vasodilation. Vasodilation is blood is filled inside it. At the same time, the venous drainage, that is removal of blood from the penis, is obstructed. Arterial dilation and venous obstruction leads to retention of blood inside the penis or within the penis, which causes it to enlarge and become hard. And this phenomena is called erection. This facilitates the limp penis to penetrate the female vagina, and the climax of the act is called orgasm, in which ejaculation or discharge of semen occurs. Okay? During orgasm, the heart rate increases, blood pressure rises, and emotional excitement reaches to a climax. And the number of spermatozoa which are produced is 400 million in one ejaculation. Okay. Now next one is how many passage of spermatozoa in the female tract. As the sperm cells are released in the female tract, they have to swim and pass up to the fallopian tube where fertilization is caused. Okay, and it is said that in the favorable phase of menstrual cycle, they can survive for 72 hours. The male gamete can survive for 72 hours in the uterus and the fallopian tubes. Only one spermatozoa out of millions reach the ovum in the fallopian tube by overcoming many obstructions, like mechanical obstacles are there, then acidic environment which is present in the female tract, that also kills the many male gamete or the sperm cells. Okay. Then comes ovum spermatozoa interaction in the fallopian tube. The ovum at the secondary oocyte stage, it is released from the ovary and it trickles down, means it follows down the fallopian tube, being encircled by the follicle cells. These follicle cells are glued together by mucopolysaccharide which is called hyaluronic acid. What is fertilization? Fertilization of ovum occurs in the ampullary isthmic junction of fallopian tube. Okay, and after fertilization, the male and female pronucleus, both of them will meet during fertilization and they will form a zygote which is a diploid cell. So in the next class we will study from egg to embryo, the development of different stages of this embryo and placenta, parturition, and then the syllabus will be complete. Okay. Yeah, hormonal control, lactation. Lactation is not mentioned here. Lactation also, of course. Okay. So till then, what you can do? You can study this chapter and draw the diagram of oogenesis as homework. What are the steps of oogenesis? The structure of ovum. The diagram is also required. Then you can write the steps of menstrual cycle, the definition. If diagram is there, you can draw that one also. Okay. Okay.